Hey, welcome to Inclusive Pathways, a podcast where we break down barriers and connections and reimagine what inclusion truly means. And I'm Jessica Winchester. I'm the CEO of Inclusive Pathways and your host today. And every week, we're going to dive into the heart of disability inclusion and explore how it goes beyond policy. It's really a mindset that drives innovation, resilience, and authentic equity. And to keep up with Inclusive Pathways, be sure to follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram for exclusive content. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Welcome back, Michael Grimmett, to the show. Michael is an amazing advocate and leader in disability inclusion. He brings not only his expertise, but a powerful personal journey that has fueled his mission to make workplaces and the world more accessible to everybody. Michael, it's always great to have you on here, and I'm so happy to have you back here again today. Could you start
Thank you.
by kind of reminding us who you are and what you do and your background, kind of plug in what your path has been so far?
So I'm a disabled person from the UK, and I have been working for about 15 to 16 years, mainly around advocating around social care for um, still people, but also around generally around access and inclusion and trying to make trying to make everything a bit more inclusive for people to access everything that they should really.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we are really looking at how we can help like businesses and leaders be able to get some information or get some examples of how to really include that within their organizations and how important that
Yeah,
is. And
yeah,
Michael, you have an account on, is it LinkedIn? Do you want to give a
yeah,
plug for that?
yeah. I have an account on LinkedIn which you can when you search for me, feel free to connect with me. Um, yes, it is I'm quite easily found, and I'm looking forward to talking about how disability leadership can improve organisations today.
Yeah. And we'll put it in the comments too, or in the section
Yeah,
underneath in our YouTube link and in our pod. So you'll be able to link in right to Michael and find him.
yeah.
So, what do you think? Why do you think leadership and disability inclusion is so important, Michael? What can leaders do to really help disability inclusion?
So I think having a salesperson, either as a leader or generally within any workforce, just brings about a diverse per- perspective, and that like leaders who are disabled bring about kind of a unique insight and a lived experience that can enrich decision making and innovation. So I've had managers or leaders who have had an impairment, and you learn also even as a fellow disabled person, you learn so much from that, and then that brings about an inclusive culture
Hmm.
within the actual workplace, and it's not about being woke; it's about being having some kind of representation at a leadership
Hmm.
level so that any disabled person can aspire to be can aspire to be that high
Hmm.
up in an organization. I think as we are looking to get more and more disabled people into work, you need to have that positive leadership role model, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean. And
Hmm.
there's not as many as what I think there should be. So, and um, yeah, and I just think that would then widen the talent pool and give an organisation more access to diverse talent and perspectives. So
Yeah.
it is quite a wide ranging subject. Like on one hand, we hear that we get more salespeople into work, but we need to have their kind of leadership um, and
Mhm.
empatheticness around how you get salespeople into work. It's okay saying, yeah, we need to get people into work, but how are you going to achieve that?
Right.
What, why would a salesperson want to work for you?
Mhm.
Is what I would say, the same as the non-salesperson, isn't it? So,
Mhm.
do you understand the need for sometimes working from home and all that stuff?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
although COVID was absolutely awful and it was an awful event, it did prove that still people can work
Mhm.
from home and they
Yeah.
can participate in society. So I know I'm not the actual COVID is was awful, but it did prove that people with still people can work.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think
And
that
there's
is
there's like 70 million individuals in the US that I know that have
yeah,
disabilities, and I believe the number is close to like 40 million that are able to work that are not currently working. Like they're this
yeah,
untapped talent pool that's just sitting there not engaged. And it's really not that they can't be working, but a lot of times it's that either there's the belief that they can't work. Sometimes that's a
yeah,
lot of that here, especially in the
yeah,
US, and or they just haven't been told that it's a possibility. They haven't been
exactly.
actually told, "Hey, do you wanna do this?" Or, "Hey, would you like to go to work?" Or, "Hey, you're coming out of high school. You wanna go to school? You wanna go to
Yeah,
work?" That's just not in their teams, their support systems aren't there.
yeah,
So, but if leaders and workplaces, organizations actually knew that there was this pool of people wanting work or can work, you know, to me it just is this like I said, this untapped talent pool that's just kind of sitting there, and there's not a
yeah,
lot of leaders that are educated or maybe willing to uh go and look for those folks. You know what I mean?
yeah. I know what you mean. And like, how how do you reach those people?
Mhm.
It's okay. I hear quite a lot of people there are a lot of there people who aren't working,
Mhm.
and I think they can be leaning in certain part of the media to
Mhm.
thinking that still people don't want to work.
Mhm.
I think that's not entirely true. I'm not saying that every single salesperson wants to work. I'm not gonna say that. But
Uh-huh.
what I am gonna say is that, the majority I like to think of people worldwide want to work
Mhm.
and want to, contribute any other person. So,
Mhm.
how you can adapt, how you can adjust your workplace, and also have role models
Mhm.
in that workplace
Right.
that can,
And leadership is a big part of that, right? And I'm
yeah,
sure you've worked with differently. Leaders don't necessarily mean your bosses necessarily either. It can be anybody who has that ability to create change or to um, make that or help people in general. In our world,
yeah.
anybody who has that ability to do that. So, have you had in your past some really good leaders that have like what sticks out to you when you have somebody who's
So
really good?
I'll be quite honest, I mainly had salespeople lead me. So I mainly worked until recently in disabled persons organisations.
Hmm.
And therefore the likelihood is you're gonna get a leader as a salesperson. But I would say that you learn a lot from that leader, so one particular leader who who showed me that like you have to be resilient like anybody else does, and you shouldn't. Yeah, and there were no excuses because you're a still person. Is what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say. So like that's what I learned a lot from him and the way he interacted
Mhm.
with people around him and how to manage a large group of people. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I like to think I learned from him quite a lot, and you also learn from a lot of other people that you observe as well. So it's about, and I think that great leaders, disabled or not, always have time for
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
So even if, and that's what I kind of take away from leadership, is that if you have somebody who you need your help,
Mhm.
then you are there for them,
Mhm.
as well as them learning a lot from
Right.
you about how to carry yourself and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like, I mean, I think all of us have different styles that we appreciate in a leader or in a
Yeah,
supervisor or a leader in general. And for me, leadership, I always feel like I call it like the four H's: to be honest, humble, to have like that sense of hustle, and to ask
yeah,
for help. So I really like that in a leader. It's almost like a very empathetic leader who is willing to like look and ask for help from others and learn
yeah,
from others as well. And I really
yeah,
feel like that humbleness, seeking help in the community, learning from others and truly being like I said, that humble, wondering how they can do better is something that I think is really good qualities when you're talking about disability inclusion, because
yeah,
who better to help you understand how to lead and how to include disability than people with disabilities. I mean, you should be asking, your community should be out there doing some outreach, understanding, getting people into your organization who are disabled and having them take on, leadership roles or advocacy roles, whatever it might be, to help your organization get there. We've talked in the past about
exactly.
all of the things that, you know, keep people from not even getting in the door to an organization, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so how could we just eliminate those things and have leadership really step in and create that space?
And then I think within that organization, you then follow one another. So if you hear of a great leader in a certain organization, then that, then that other organization would want to follow, because
Mhm.
obviously still people want to work for that company. So
Mhm.
yeah, and also having a stable person as a leader just brings
Mhm.
about better representation. So it ensures that the decisions reflect the needs of the employees that are di- disabled and any customers or
Mhm.
stakeholders. Should they already have that experience?
Mhm.
I think that's another advantage for
Right.
having a disabled person as a leader. Like you said, how many disabled people there are in the UK. I mean, in the US, sorry, but
Mhm.
in the UK, it is 1 in 4,
Right. Uh-huh.
roughly, give or take a bit. So
Yeah.
that yeah, that's a quarter of the population has an impairment.
Mhm.
So therefore, that the market that we need to kind of feel included. I do understand there's a lot about in the UK at the moment around getting their people into work.
Mhm.
You know what it's like in the US. I think that is a point, but we also need to look at the actual person,
Mhm.
not just like they're disabled and the problem is they're not working.
Mhm.
Should be about they are a disabled person. How can we get them into work?
Right.
How can we have positive role models that
Mhm.
will make them go, oh, you know what, I could get to that top of that
Mhm.
tree or
Exactly.
wherever they want to get to.
We
So
need to
I
get better
think,
at, like, that person-centered
yeah,
plan so that they know. Right.
yeah, exactly. And then also, like, yeah, if you're working and leadership, what is society going to do around that?
Mhm.
Are we going to improve our public transport? Are we going to improve,
Mhm.
access to buildings
Yeah.
and that kind of thing? So
Yep.
it's okay then and when we do need more leadership and it will bring about enhanced
Mhm.
reputation and, you know, but also we need to look more deeply around that
Mhm.
subject. Don't we?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of times that we've got a situation sometimes where people think they're doing a really good job or organizations think they're doing a really good job. Leadership might get an understanding of like, hey, I've got a really good score on my strategic planning, disability inclusion. People have said I do a really good job in my planning. But then you walk into maybe it's a huge corporate organization, retail organization. I'm not going to say who, but a big
Yeah,
retail
yeah, yeah,
organization. And corporately, they've got all these things in place. They've got in their strategic plan, they have accessibility, they're following all the rules, all the policies are in place for inclusiveness. But then somebody who is disabled comes to, let's say they apply for a job there and they get to the interview, and in the interview that manager, that store manager, even though it's not the corporate level where they've got all these plans, that store manager really does not understand what's going on here. Like, they're really not educated, they really don't understand the planning. And I've been with people, in my line of work. I've helped people find jobs. I've helped people, get that person-centered planning, encouraging teams and advocating. But when we go to an interview, and I'll tell you about one experience particularly. Went to this retailer, and it was supposed to be set up in a way that was more inclusive because this individual had autism. And you know, interviews was really not a strong point, but man, could he do the job, right?
yeah,
He was gonna
yeah,
be an excellent fit. He wanted to be there, but all these things had been put in place corporately. They were like, "Yes, we want him in here. We wanna do this. He just has to go through the steps." We get to the interview, and that store manager was so rude. He told him right away that he stunk at the interview, so he didn't get the job because he really couldn't answer the questions. And it was like he was so excited to be there and understand that if he just gets through these, little steps that they were gonna hire him. But this
yeah,
manager was the person that stepped in and said, "No, can I give you some feedback on the interview? You didn't really use any expression." And I'm just thinking, you have got to be kidding me. We did call this company afterwards and let them know about the manager and his behavior. But also, it just goes to show that that top leadership, no matter if you have everything in place and you have
yeah,
inclusion programs and all these things, it
yeah,
has to trickle down and it has to be a part of your leadership. And you have to be able to have that embedded into, if you're a huge organization, everywhere. You can't just rely on that policy. It
right,
does actually need good leadership and the training that has to happen and the empathy and the style of that person if you're truly going to be inclusive. we have to make sure that's happening. So it doesn't
yeah,
matter what kind of score you get on your
yeah,
your inclusion planning if it's not walking the talk, in a way. You have
yeah,
to walk the talk. You have to show that's happening.
yeah. Of
Anyways,
course you do.
yeah,
I just think, and that's where good leadership comes in.
right.
That you then have things that filter down. And the
Hmm.
idea of leadership isn't you don't always have to be a kind of strong voice, but you
Right.
can delegate to people and communicate what needs to be done. And I always find that quite interesting the delegation aspect of
Hmm.
including people.
Right.
Yeah, how you do that quite quickly and
Hmm.
quite efficiently.
Right.
And so, but you can also tell that when non-disabled leaders do have experience with disability,
Hmm.
I think that tells that if they may have a disabled friend or family member, and that experience breaks down that barrier of being fearful.
Hmm.
I just think that's quite interesting as well.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why we need more people at the top,
Right.
in our parliaments or in our
Right.
senates, who
Hmm.
have impairments, who
Hmm.
not just one or two,
Right.
even that is truly representative of
Yes.
that country,
Yeah, I think you hit it
And,
on the dime there. It is really it's a representation, we talk right now, and not to get too political or anything, but
no,
when you
no, no,
mention it being woke, or that's the trigger word lately,
yeah,
right? um
yeah,
but it's really having representation, and that's really what our political system is supposed to be about too, is representing the people
yeah,
of the country, right? So representation is
and
key.
and the better representation you have, the better I think your business advantage is. So,
Mhm.
the more inclusive your organization is, the the better they should perform
Mhm.
financially, because they are including that market of disabled people
Right.
that is quite vast. If you
Yeah.
get into it,
Yeah.
and there's quite a lot of disabled people really.
Yeah.
So we and that's what I mean. It's about that kind of thought rather than seeing it as a
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah.
It's only a problem if you're scared of it. Then just change.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah. Have
basically.
somebody come in who can help you with it. That's the other part about it too, is if you
Yep,
really the leader feels uncomfortable, and a lot of time the uncomfortableness is really the misunderstanding or not an understanding, and it becomes like
yep,
that fear, right? But if that's the case, then what do we normally do when we have these fears or misunderstandings? We bring somebody in who can educate us, or at least go, hey, um, can you help me? Can you help me with
yeah,
better understanding what's going on here? And that's the type of leader, I think. It just takes that person to kind of go, hey, I need help on this. That's a good
yep,
leader.
yeah, and that helps out with like compliance and
Mhm.
advocacy as
Mhm.
well, because the disabled leaders can
Right.
then guide organisation in meeting their legal obligations, particularly around accessibility and
Mhm.
inclusion, and then they can advocate for the meaningful change
Right.
that needs to happen. But we need to get people into those positions first, don't we?
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
is the challenge. Is
Mhm.
you know, like there's only a handful of people that I can think of that have that. It's not about being the top of the tree always,
Right. No.
but yeah, but I think it does help.
Yep.
Yeah, if you look at like, yeah, I know it's not about wealth and all that, but if you look at the richest people in the world,
Mm-hmm.
how many of those have or are openly to this day? So
Yeah.
obviously some people may have a hidden disability,
Sure.
but how many of them openly talk about it?
Right.
Not many. Only like Richard Branson talks about his dyslexia quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and that's encouraging. Obviously, he is what he is, and
Mm-hmm.
there and therefore that impairment group have got something to say. Oh, if he can do it,
Mm-hmm.
then I
Mm-hmm.
can. Does that make sense? So, um, then yeah, I if he can do it, then I'll
Right.
try on and do it. So
Yep.
yeah, so no, but yeah, I just find it challenging, and
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have that leadership,
Right. I've been a part of an organization that is deaf and hard of hearing. And they also, not to speak on behalf of them, but just through my experiences, making sure that that leadership in that organization, in that agency is a deaf leader, how important that really is for the culture of that community. And they receive information, at different sources than hearing people, and it's how important it is to have a nonprofit organization led by a deaf individual who understands how that information is transferred, who understands how the culture works, to be able to get that information to the right community in the right way. I don't think
yeah,
people, that's the part that people don't understand. Like, why is it important for somebody to be deaf? It's not just this woke person. It's more or less this is because they understand and the representation makes sense that this person needs to be able to get the information out. As a hearing person, really truly doesn't understand that at all. They might try to understand it, but they don't. They don't understand that. So that's just one of the experiences I've been a part of and seen secondhand, obviously. But I I I think that's the missing part of why representation within the disability community is important because it the people know how to best reach their people, in other words.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we can be experts by experience, can't we? So
Mhm.
we are the experts in our particular field, and therefore we can lead organizations
Right.
with that. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I have a question for you. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this before. And I think that it still has to do with leadership. But here in the US, we have this situation that I think most states are trying to develop and get away from, which is a good thing for us. The question is, and I'm not sure how it is in the UK, so I'm going to try and see if you have something
okay.
similar there.
Put me on the spot. Yeah, go
I'll
for
put you
it.
on the spot.
Yeah,
But
well,
um, so here in the US, we have a lot of states that still allow what we call sheltered workshops. Do you know what sheltered is there a similar thing in the UK about
I'm
sheltered
guessing
workshops?
you're like where they have to like how can I put it politely? Um, like weaving baskets, for example, and
Oh,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was the thing part in my day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
yeah, we
Yeah,
have
so
some, and I'm not a fan
right. Yeah,
because
that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to see what your
yeah,
thoughts are on that.
no, I'm not a fan. 'Cause then it puts the sale people into I believe into a category of that, and it's not. Go watch my language here quite carefully. I think some people should aspire to be whatever they want to be. So
Right.
if that kind of work is what they want to do, that's fine.
Hmm.
No, yeah, people want to work in a fast food restaurant. That isn't for me. But if you
Hmm.
want to do it, crack on.
Yeah.
Right? That is my kind of viewpoint on it. That you shouldn't really just say, "Oh, but we got them work because we got them, and we're gonna get all these sale people
Hmm.
together." Obviously, sale people love other sale people,
Hmm.
and and we'll put them in some kind of hall or centre, and we'll leave them there, and that's really it, really,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah. So,
Um,
right now, each state has the opportunity to basically get rid of this service. I guess, and providers can
right.
provide this service. In Arizona, particularly, I know there's a plan to kind of move away from things. I don't know now. Obviously, there's a lot of things up in the air politically. If these things
Yeah.
are going to continue to be enforced, or states are going to maybe
Mm,
have to choose if they really want to go forward with this. But really it's about kind of getting rid of what we would say are sheltered workshops, and in addition to sheltered workshops, paying people less than minimum wage. So minimum wage in each state is different, but that is something that
mm,
happened, like Michael said, people with disabilities working together in a to do a job, like usually something that's very simple, putting things together, maybe putting, um, one piece of something that you might not really think about in your daily
yeah.
aspect, but it gets done regularly, right? And each piece is worth maybe like 1 cent or something. So
Yeah.
depending on how many you make is how much you get paid for that day instead
Yeah.
of minimum wage, or a percent of minimum wage based off of your productivity, right?
Yeah.
How in that,
Yeah.
they have to follow, it is legal, just so people are, if people don't know,
Yeah.
but that they're starting to move away from that, because to be honest, work is work. Like, doesn't matter how many pieces you make. How,
Yeah.
you or
Exactly.
I, Michael, are like, well, I do this for 1 hour, I do this, and nobody's timing
No.
me. Like, nobody's
No.
timing me to get this done.
No.
So why are these individuals being timed? Or, you know, it's a way of the past. It was something that was progressive at the time and now is no longer progressive. But okay, so my question, even though I kind of went this the roundabout way of explaining everything,
Yeah.
my
Okay.
question is that we in organizations who are kind of being pushed to think more person centered and to push out of this sheltered workshop thing, if they have that in their organization, there is a change in mindset that leaders need to have.
Yeah.
What kind of advice, Michael, would you give that leader of that organization who has to now change kind of like that business model, has to go through something they truly don't understand why, or maybe don't believe in?
So I think it's about knowing that salespeople, if you adjust or adapt, they're more likely to be loyal to you. They're more likely to stay with you, and they're more likely to develop under you and hopefully pro- progress.
Mhm.
Also, so people are interested in progressing like anybody else. We don't want just not all sales people want most of the sales people don't want just menial jobs. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to progress. Obviously, I can't say that for everybody, and that is fair enough, and that's the same for every single work of life. Um, So yeah, I just think those are the two main key things for any leader to bear in mind is that that self people will be loyal the more you show them, and they'll also trying to be quite receptive toward that and will progress under you. And who knows, maybe with the aim, I think, of possibly even replacing you. And that's not to say you should watch over your back on this. That's a positive thing rather than a negative thing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, it takes a really, um, again, that humble leader to take a look at where they are now, even if the business is doing very well, and be able to go, okay, I want to understand why this is being put in place. And now we have to figure out how to move forward from what we were doing to
Yeah,
move out of that. And exactly, I think you are right on. You're right on with that. Just in my experience with leaders here, um, I think for me, I would suggest getting, surveying and talking with people with disabilities, maybe getting a committee together to help maybe lead that
yeah,
transition, right? Again, kind of
yeah,
if you're not in that realm in your headspace, there's no way that you're going to be able to move that forward. So
yeah.
you have to ask for help. You have to be humble and ask for help um, with that. Um, Before we sign off here today, and I'm hopeful, we're gonna have another session and talk about some amazing
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Mhm.
And, what a good topic today, but also going forward as the world is changing, to help progress and advocate for disability inclusion and how important that is. What would you say, Michael, to listeners right now, maybe individuals with disabilities who are tuning in or leaders who are tuning in? What's some advice you want to give them before we sign off today?
I just think that knowing that disabled people that have their worth within their working environment and then how you lead them is really important. And also then that can make a difference not also to your personal career and your personal development, but also the reputation of the business or organization that you work for.
Mhm.
So it works in two ways. And I think, don't be scared of disability. Kind of embrace it, and the more you embrace it, the more you'll see it's an everyday occurrence. And finally, 80% of disability is acquired, unfortunately. So therefore, that it could one day happen to you.
Right.
So therefore, the more that we em- embrace it, the better it is for everybody.
Mhm. Absolutely. That is so important as we remember, that a lot of the disabilities that are in this our world today are acquired. And not only that, sometimes you have the temporary situations that happen that help us in everyday life, help
Yes.
us to be able to and I think again, that's so important. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you
No worries.
so
Thank you so
much.
much, Jessica, for having me. Thank you so much, and I
Yeah.
will. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and your expertise and experiences are so amazing and transformative to how inclusion can really be. If you found today's conversation insightful, don't forget to subscribe and follow Inclusive Pathways on YouTube. Follow Michael. We'll put his links in our information below on YouTube and Instagram. And make sure you follow along for more episodes, expert tips, and practical strategies. Thanks again for tuning in. And I'm really looking forward to being able to continue this journey with Michael and towards inclusion. So until next time, we'll see you. see you then.